This episode of the Grand Rising Show was brought to you by Autochthonous Assembly, where the real work gets done. Autochthonous Assembly is a gathering of the minds that do the work. Now, for many of our first time subscribers and first time visitors, you may be wondering who Autochthonous Assembly are. You can find this information about our mission statement and our core values on the website at autochthonousassembly.com/about. We are a nonprofit organization dedicated to raising up Indigenous American voices by using genealogy, also known as family history, or your family tree, which is the study of families and the tracing of their lineages and history. Genealogists use oral interviews, historical records, genetic analysis, and other records to obtain information about a family and to demonstrate kinship and pedigrees of its members. Our core values are the foundation of our company, which is essential to our success and serve as a lens through which we evaluate every business decision. Those core values are, but are not limited to, integrity, which is knowing and doing what is right; respect, which is treating others the way you want to be treated; responsibility, which is embracing opportunities to contribute; and servant leadership, which is serving the common good. Now, at Autochthonous Assembly, we have a couple of goals here. And our first goal and foremost of the reason why we do everything that we do is to ensure that we help you do your genealogy and connect back to your tribe and find out where you are from. Everything that we do from the standpoint of the Grand Rising Show and all the information that's posted on the website is dedicated to that one specific purpose, helping you find your genealogy, find your relatives, find your family so that you will know exactly who you are. And if you choose to, tie back into your tribe, whether that tribe is a Native American tribe, an American Indian tribe, whether it's allowing you to determine which house in Africa that you belong to, or what clan of Scandinavia or Europe or France that you belong to. Either way, our goal is to do just that, help you find out who you are so you know exactly where to start. We are not here to tell you who you are, and we're not here to tell you who you are not. We're just here to help you discover your beginnings. Another one of our missions is to help you become financially independent so that you can help your generations for the next 7 generations and be able to put a stable foundation for you and your relatives. And if you should choose to use this information that we provide free of charge to help not only yourself, but your community and your tribe, then we will do everything in our power to make sure that gets done as well. And remember, our goal here is to make sure that we help you get exposed to this information to put you in the best situation possible. So now what I'm going to do now is return it back over to the panel to see if there was anything I missed, and I will go ahead and get set up so we can get ready and get digging into this information. Panel, take it away.
Warning, warning, warning. Hard hats, pickaxe, shovels, boots required.
Grand Rising. Hope everyone's doing well this rising, this Tuesday. What's going on, Bones? What's going on, Gabby? How y'all doing?
All right, Grand Rising, everyone. Peace, peace, peace.
I guess Gabby is on mute. She'll be joining us shortly when she gets situated. I'm waiting for No Salt to come in when he gets the opportunity. So this is day 2 of being exclusively on the website, and so far so good. What do you think, Bones?
Yep. Okay, feel comfortable.
I agree. I definitely agree. Although I do know and realize that some people, because of their familiarity and their comfort with YouTube, will choose to stay there, and that's fine. They'll just have to catch us later on in the day, I guess.
Yeah, it takes a minute.
Yeah. So grand rising to everyone that's in the A2 website chat. Grand rising to the A2 silent majority. We appreciate y'all coming on. We appreciate y'all being with us on this hour on the website this rising. And when I say hour, I don't just mean those that are on the panel or that are that's on the board of the Tigers Assembly. I mean everybody. This is everybody's channel. This is for you. And all that's put together is to ensure and make sure that you can do your genealogy and that you're able to connect to your family, and if you so choose, to be financially independent. So grand rising to everyone, and I will go ahead and get started with the roll call. Is there anything you want to say before I get started, Bones?
No, nothing at the moment. The same from about time.
Cool. So I want to say grand rising to Big Hawk, Celestial Love, Copper Colored Ancestor, Feathered Dragon, Marlon P, Mr. TJ, Nature's Void, Oak Cliff, Ohio Player, Pamela Hall, Phoenix Rose, and Whitewater Rider. Grand rising to y'all. We're glad that y'all can make it, and thank you for catching the Cap this rising on our own website. Oh, Bones, you get a chance today, and I think this is something that the listeners need to know, because many of them either have YouTube channels or they will be having YouTube channels, so we may want to touch on some of the rules and how it's going to affect everyone. So, I don't know. Grand rising, Michael Harris Brown Cheek. So, cool beans. Alright. So while I'm waiting on Sir No Sellout to come on in, I'm going to go ahead and hit the clock. So everybody know what they need to do. Get your hard hats. And
Grand Rising.
Grand Rising, Gabby, how are you doing?
I'm doing fine.
That is good.
I couldn't get it. I couldn't get my thing. No. Grand Rising.
What?
Okay, that's too early. It's too early.
Too soon? Too much? Too soon?
Too early.
Okay.
List says what?
Not doing that.
Okay.
Yeah, not.
Too early.
Yeah, just have it too early. Anyway, I was about to hit this clock, so we can go ahead and get started with what we learned yesterday, and then go into the reading. So let me go ahead and hit this clock. Y'all know what time it is. Y'all know the clock. Y'all know what that means. It's time to get to work. So yesterday I was taking notes as James was talking, and I learned a lot yesterday, and there was a lot that he covered during the post-production meeting as well. So I'm just going to give you some of the things that I've learned on this journey yesterday as we cover day 9 of the Texas Indian War. There's a lot to cover. Texas is a big state. There's a lot of history, so that's why we're on day 9. But what I learned yesterday is when they talk about the Southern Plains Indians, they're actually talking about the Southern Eastern Indians, the Alabama, the ones that migrated up north from the Yucatan. And what it boiled down to is that when the Plains Indians were put on the same reservation as the Southern Plains Indians, then those Southern Plains Indians were made the chiefs or elected the chiefs of the Plains Indians. So they placed them in charge of those tribes. When I say they, I'm talking about the government, colonizer, however you want to frame it. Grand Rising Marlon Pete. I think that's something. Oh, Grand Rising Tiny 04044. So I wanted to cover that. Cows are basically a man-made domesticated animal, cross between an ox and something else. That part I did not get, but we do know that there are no such thing as wild cows in Americas. So they are domesticated animals for consumption of beef and milk, which is not good for us. What else did we learn yesterday? That our ancestors were already in the plains and already in the West. They were the ones that drove the Plains Indians to the least desirable land of the plains, if you will. So they didn't just get migrated or pushed to Texas and to the West. They were already there in the beginning. And a lot of the chiefs from these southern tribes were removed in the 1700s. Come to find out, they're like most of the Indians from the north, or most of the Indians that are either Métis or Mongoloid. And when we say Métis or Mongoloid, that basically means they have a quote unquote, for lack of a better term, admixture of European or Asian descent to them. They were the ones that were cutting a lot more deals than our ancestors. Not to say our ancestors didn't cut deals, but the Comanche, the Sioux, the Cherokee, they were cutting a lot more deals than we were cutting out. Nature Void brings up a good point. They created specific guns to remove our food source. Yes, they created the buffalo gun. They could shoot buffalo from almost a mile out. And they was basically sniping the Indians with them too. What else did we learn? Whenever we hear the term 10th Cavalry, 10th Cavalry means Buffalo Soldier. Buffalo Soldier means Seminole Indians. So the Seminole Indians are the Buffalo Soldier who was part of the 10th Cavalry. So, yeah, that. And that's pretty much what I have for what we learned. And so what we'll be able to do, give me a second. So what we'll do now is we'll go ahead and start posting a link and get ready to read the next part of the Texas Indian War, and that's going to be concerning, give me a second, the release, recapture, and death of Santana at Huntsville. So that's what we will be reading. So I'll put the link in the chat so everybody can follow along, and then we'll be able to move forward. So give me a second. I'll put the link in the chat. Alright, so I placed the link in the chat for y'all, so y'all be able to see it and follow along as we read. Make sure I haven't missed anybody. Grand Rising P. Parker, hope all is well. Thank you for catching the cab this rising. What else we got that I missed? Alright. No, should have everybody. Cool. So I'm going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm going to get to reading, and then Gabby, you better help me read this rising, right? I will take that as a yes. I am sharing my screen, so y'all should be able to see it momentarily on your phones, mobile devices, and your computer and or mobile device. Alright, so the release, recapture, and death of Santanta at Huntsville. And it reads, as a result of Guadalupe Gipago's stubborn stance, Santanta was released in 1873, and Adoete was released too, and was alleged to be soon back attacking buffalo hunters, and was present at the raid on Adobe Walls. Really, the Kiowa people deny he was involved in that battle. Other than being present anyway, the buffalo hunters were abusive in the land granted to the Comanche and Kiowa by the treaty and the Great Father in Washington. He yielded up his war lance and other symbols of leadership to younger, more aggressive men, but his very presence at the battle violated his parole, and the government called for his arrest. He surrendered in October 1874 and was returned to the state penitentiary. Stop. This is the first time me hearing of a chief being on parole, right?
Uh-huh.
That's interesting. But after the Treaty of after the Act of 1866, there were no more tribal courts, so everything has to go through the military. So apparently he was on parole, and because he showed up on a battleground that was attacking the government, he violated his parole, and thus he had to go back to state penitentiary. Now this is the first time in history that I've heard anything mentioned about a penitentiary. What about you, Bones?
Yeah, dealing with Indians.
So it said that he was present at the majority of the attacks, but he didn't participate because he gave up the war lance. And well, let's see, where is that? And other symbols of leadership to younger, more aggressive men. So the thing about chiefs and tribes and Indians, just like the military, they have symbols of leadership. So whatever those symbols were that he once carried or yielded, he gave those symbols up to more aggressive and younger men. So they were the ones that was carrying out the acts of war. They were the ones carrying out the raids. They were the ones attacking the buffalo hunters. Because remember, the buffalo hunters were the ones that was killing off all the buffalo for commerce and also to control the Comanche, which were the Plains Indians of the North and the South. So let's continue to see how everything plays out for Chiefs Kiowa or Satanta. It says after he was returned to the penitentiary in 1874, he saw no hope for escape. For a while, he was worked on a chain gang which helped to bring the MK&T Railway. He became sullen and broken in spirit and would be seen for hours gazing through his prison bars toward the north, the hunting grounds of his people. Santanta killed himself on October 1st, 1878 by jumping from a high window of the prison hospital. Adoite was also rearrested, but unlike Santanta, he was not sent back to Huntsville. No one would swear they had seen him as they had Santanta on the battlefield. Both Satank and Santanta are buried at the Chief's Knoll at Fort Sill, Oklahoma. So what we're witnessing and what we know now is that the prison systems were created to harvest or utilize cheap labor for criminals that were in violation of these laws that were specifically put in place for the Indians. And
sound like them so-called black codes to me. Chain gang work.
And he was working to build the MK&T Railway. Let me see if I can pull that up right quick. Grand Rising EJ Coppertone. I found it. Put the link in the chat. And now so the MK&T Railway stands for the Missouri, Kansas, Texas Railway. It says is a former Class 1 railway company in the United States with its last headquarters in Dallas, established in 1865 under the name Union Pacific Railway Southern Branch. It came to serve an extensive rail network in Texas, Oklahoma, Kansas, and Missouri. In 1988, it merged with Missouri Pacific Railroad. Today, it is part of Union Pacific Railroad. So that means that railroad still exists. In the 1890s, the MKT was commonly referred to as KT because it was a Kansas-Texas division of the Missouri Pacific Railroad, and KT was its stock exchange symbol. This soon evolved into the nickname the Caddy. The Caddy was the first railroad to enter Texas from the north. Eventually, the Caddy's core system would link Parsons, Fort Scott Junction, Junction City, Olathe, and Kansas City, Kansas, Kansas City, Joplin, Columbia, Jefferson City, and St. Louis, Missouri, Tulsa, and Oklahoma City, Oklahoma, Dallas, Fort Worth, Waco. Well, we know Waco is where the ISA are. Temple, Austin, San Antonio, Houston, and Galveston, Texas. An additional main line between the Fort Worth and Salina, Kansas was added in the 1980s after the collapse of the Chicago, Rock Island, and Pacific Railroad. This line was operated as the Oklahoma, Kansas, and Texas Railroad, OKKT. Former Rock Island trackage rights acquired by the Caddy also gave it access to Lincoln and Omaha, Nebraska, and Council Bluffs, Iowa. At the end of the 1970s, MKT operated 2,623 miles of road and 3,765 miles of track. That's interesting, right? So let's look at the history a little bit. It says the Missouri Kansas Texas Railway was incorporated in May 1870 in Junction City, Kansas. The company received government land grants to build a supply railroad connection, the frontier military bases, Fort Riley, Fort Gibson, and Fort Scott, and eventually Fort Worth, as well as establishing connections with other railroads which served Fort Leavenworth and Fort Smith. But its broader ambitions were to connect Chicago and New Orleans. Upon this incorporation, the MK&T acquired the Union Pacific Railway Southern Branch, EST, 1865, and its 182 miles of track in Kansas. At the time of its incorporation, consolidations were also made with the Labette and Sedalia Railway Company and the Neosho Valley Holden Railway Company. MKT also acquired the Tebow and Neosho Railroad Company, the St. Louis and Santa Fe Railroad Company, and the Hannibal and Central Missouri Railroad Company, combined with the Up Southern Branch. These small, newly built railroads formed the foundation of which the Caddy would build. In the late 1890s, a subsidiary, once called the Missouri Kansas Eastern Railroad, was established to run other existing MKT railroads approaching Kansas City and St. Louis via the Missouri River Basin. So this is what this sounds like to me. Exactly, Oak Cliff. Land grants for our land. Oh yeah, KT. Sorry about that. The prisons were built near the railroads, so they would have free labor. And it looks like a lot of them were built near the forts. Now, for those of you who don't know anything about the military, Fort Leavenworth is where the majority of military prisoners go when a soldier commits a crime that's deemed punishable. And the way that works is if you commit a crime while you are a active duty soldier in the military, you basically serve double time. You serve time for the military, and then once you get out, then you got to serve your time in the state that you committed that crime. Some people may not know that, but just a bit of history for you. So what was happening was these jails were being built and people were being incarcerated for this railroad labor. So you had people working on the chain gangs, working on the railways. And now that makes sense when Bones, who was that said that they had like 200,000 or 20,000 Indians that can work on the railroads? That was because they had prison all of them. What president was that? Was that
I can't remember the name of it.
Was it
yeah,
Grant?
that's basically what they was doing.
Yeah. Was it Grant or Johnson? Can't remember.
I think it was Johnson. Like I said, I got to go back to be exact.
Yeah, so what they were doing, it was incarcerating Indians and making them work the chain gangs.
Building a cheap labor force.
That's pretty much what the 13th and the 14th Amendment did. Made Indian citizens and become cheap labor, because you take them out of one system of indentured servitude, and then you create another system of indentured servitude based off of the fact that they committed a crime, and then you put in black codes where they're forced to commit crimes that only they commit, whereas a white settler or a settler or someone that wasn't deemed black could stand around in a group and not go to jail, or they could not have a job, be looking for a job, and not go to jail.
Because you know what's funny?
What's that?
They always tell you about the Industrial Revolution, but why they never talk about the labor that was behind the Industrial Revolution?
Exactly. Oak Cliff says my grandfathers Roy Lee Davis and Ed Wade were incarcerated at this time. Wow. And then,
You know what two movies come to mind? Life and 12 Years a Slave.
yeah, I saw Life. I didn't see 12 Years a Slave. Yeah, Big Hawk. I know he said he had a lot of Indians that could do the work. I don't know which Indians he said. He may have said Mayans, but yeah.
Yeah, but these are Mayans or Aztecs that since he was talking about having. It's coming back to me.
Yeah, but who are the Mayans and the Aztecs? They'll be your Alabama, right?
Yep.
Natchitoches, your Wichita, your Cato, your Eta, your Creek, your Choctaw, your Chickasaw. Oak Cliff says, I'm just following my tree. Y'all have helped me tremendously, and I thank you all. But we thank you for tuning in, Oak Cliff. Like I said, y'all know who we do this for.
Can't do it without you. Did not do it without you.
So it makes sense seeing in my family tree a lot of people going or actually getting incarcerated or going to jail, not knowing what it was for, but that was it.
They went to jail for not being white. At the end of the day,
Yeah.
they needed a workforce.
Yeah, this is after the 13th Amendment. Remember, at this time, all they did was made slavery legal, and now the federal government and the state oversees it now. Remember, because right after they did this, that's when they came out with these so-called black laws, to where if you looked the person eye to eye, if you was standing out at a particular time, you could be arrested. If you was doing business with a so-called white person, you can be arrested. Basically, they made laws for any single reason to put you back in indentured servitude. They could.
Yep. I'm trying to look up something. I want to see when the prison systems were built on a whole.
Think about it. It was dead cheap labor. Can you imagine if they had to pay them skilled workers for their labor to build the railroads? There'd be a whole lot of rich railroad track builders around here.
Yeah, who are you telling? So I'm looking up the history now. It says intellectual origins of the prison, of the origins of the United States prison. It says incarceration as a form of criminal punishment, a comparatively recent episode of Anglo-Americans jurisprudence. Yeah, now check this out. It says a recent episode in Anglo-American jurisprudence. According to historian Adam J. Hirsch, before the 19th century, sentences of penal confinement were rare in criminal courts of British North America. But penal incarceration had been utilized in England as early as the reign of the Tudors, if not before. When post-revolution prisons emerged in the United States, they were, in Hirsch's words, not a fundamental departure from the former American colonies' intellectual past. An early American prison system like Massachusetts Castle Island Penitentiary, built in 1870, essentially imitated the model of the 1500s English workhouse. It says, although early... Say again?
What was the name? What did you say? Workhouse?
Yeah, English 1500s English workhouse. Let me go ahead and put this link in the chat. I'll go ahead and read it from that other computer. Because again, the timelines are important. Give me a second.
And they say 1870, right?
That's when the prisons one of the prisons up north was built, but they didn't start building a prison system as a whole until they'll break it down. This is early American prison systems like Massachusetts Castle Island Penitentiary, built in 1780, essentially imitated a model of the 1500s English workhouse. That means they didn't have a unified prison system until later. So then it says all the early colonization of prisons were influenced by the England law and sovereignty in their reactions to criminal offenses. It also had a mix of religious aptitude toward the punishment of the crime. Because of the low population in the eastern states, it was hard to follow the criminal codes in place, and which led to law changes in America. It was the population boom in the eastern states that led to the reformation of the prison systems in the U.S. According to the Oxford history of the prison, there were several points that a prison functions by keep prisoners in custody, maintain order, control discipline in a safe environment, provided decent conditions for prisoners, and meet their needs, including health care, provide positive regimens which help prisoners address their offending behavior and allow them to full responsible as possible, and help prisoners prepare for their return to their community. But here's the thing that I find interesting, and here's the thing that really tells the tale, if you want to read between the lines. It says, let me go back. It was the population boom in the eastern states that led to the reformation of the prison system. When did the population boom take place, boys and girls? Between 1820 and 1870, right? The first penitentiary wasn't built until 1780, a year before the 1790 census. That's right, Oak Cliff. She said, remember, some of us went to England to be servants, cooks, and work hands. So, let's go read down a little further. Incarcerating prisoners has been a long-time idea in the history of man. U.S. prisoners adapted some of the ideas from history when it came to confining criminals. According to Bruce Johnson, of course, the notion of forcibly confining people is ancient. And there is extensive evidence that the Romans had a well-developed system of imprisoning different types of offenders. It wasn't until 1789 when reform started taking place in America. According to David J. Rothman, he suggested that it was the freedom of our independence that helped along the process of our look at reforming the law. Laws were changed in New York because they were too barbarous and monarchical principles, according to Rothman. Pennsylvania laws had changed, excluding the act of robbery and burglary from the punishable by death law. It remained only for first-degree murder conviction. Think about this. You didn't go to a penitentiary unless it was a first-degree murder conviction. This was in the late 1700s. So 1780s, 1790s, you only went to jail if it was for murder. And it had to be your first-degree conviction. So then it says, New York, New Jersey, and Virginia updated their capital crime list and reduced its list. But because of the reduction of capital crimes, they were forced to do something for the punishment other than the capital crime offenses, and this led to incarceration of longer periods of time. Y'all catch that? It said, I'll read it again. Because of the reduction of capital crimes, that means people weren't killing people like talking about. Or they weren't committing first-degree murder crimes, or they weren't being punished for first-degree murder crimes. Let's look at that. They were forced to do something for the punishment other than the capital crime offenses, and this led to incarceration of longer periods of time. The very first jail that turned into a prison state was the Walnut Street Jail. This led to uprisings of state prisons across the eastern border states of America. Newgate State Prison in Greenwich Village was built in 1796. New Jersey added its prison facility in 1797. Virginia and Kentucky in 1800 were added as well. This trend kept going, in which it included Vermont, New Hampshire, Maryland, and soon after. Now think about this: we're in the 1800s, and they haven't even got to the South yet.
You notice these prisons follow the first federal census?
Yeah. It says Americans were about reform in the early 1800s. They had ideas that rehabilitation prisons to become law-abiding citizens was the next step. Bullshit. They needed to change the prison system's functions. Jacksonian American reformers hoped that changing the way they developed the institutions would give the inmates the tools to change. Auburn State Prison became the first prison to implement the rehabilitation idea. Yeah, according to this, New York was first, Oak Cliff. So think about this. It says Auburn State Prison became the first prison to implement the rehabilitation idea. The function of the prison was to isolate, teach obedience, and to use labor for means of production through the inmates. Stop. I'm going to read that again. It says they needed to change the prison system's function. Jacksonian American reformers hoped that changing the way they developed the institutions would give the inmates the tools to change, meaning it make them turn them into a workforce. Auburn State Prison became the first prison to implement the rehabilitation idea. The function of the prison was to isolate, teach obedience, and to use labor for the means of production through inmates. According to Rothman, reform, not deterrence, was now the aim of incarceration. I'm gonna highlight this. Reform, not deterrence. So what was once meant to deter was now meant to reform. What does reform mean?
Indoctrinate, to make a long story short.
Yeah. Soon, a rivalry plan stepped into place through the Pennsylvania model, which functioned almost the same as the Auburn model, but eliminating human contact with others. This meant that inmates were incarcerated in cells alone, ate alone, and were only provided approved visitors. The development of prison changed from the 1800s to modern day era. As of 1990, there are over 750,000 people held in state prisons or county jails. With the development of new material and ideas, the prisons had changed physically to accommodate the rising population and it wasn't just designated to house the amount of incarcerated people. Although the prisons maintained a high wall method and added new modern technology such as surveillance, electronically monitored perimeters, and changed the way prisons were operated. The change in prison operating system has led to branching prisons off into multiple factors to meet the needs of incarcerated population. For Norval Morris, the contemporary prison, he writes, there are open prisons, weekend prisons, and day prisons. This is not to say that the change of punishment has completely changed in redevelopment of the early prison systems. It still maintains social order and is moved by politics in an ever-changing matters.
Meaning whatever the workforce need is.
Right. So let's look at the English workhouse.
That's still the same.
Go ahead, Gabby.
You know that's still the same now, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Like, literally exactly the same. They got weekend. Wow.
Yeah, weekend sentences, yeah. Day sentences, labor forces. Think about it, a couple of years ago, didn't they make the news about Walmart farms were ran by prisoners? A lot of your major companies, labor is done by prisoners. That's what it was designed for, to always keep a free workforce, always. Oh, not to mention what they, not to forget what they mentioned in the chat. They also took a lot of Indians over to England as servants and stuff too as sentences.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, this thing.
Go ahead, Gabby. You good?
I'm just saying, it's like reiterating understanding business for real.
Yeah, when the model changes or when the need changes, the business model changes. So let's look at the English workhouse. The English workhouse, an intellectual forerunner of early United States penitentiary. I'm gonna repeat that. The English workhouse, an intellectual forerunner of the early United States penitentiaries, was first developed as a cure for the idleness of the poor. Stop.
Look at here, look at here, look at here.
A cure for the idleness of the poor. You can't find a job, you can't find work, and since you ain't doing nothing to get paid, then
We got you.
we got these. Like my father used to tell me when we was growing up, he'd be like, I'm bored. He would tell me, he said, either you find something to do or I'll find something for you to do. Same concept.
Idle hands is the devil's playground.
Exactly. So it says over the English officials and performers, it said it was first developed as a cure for the idleness of the poor. Over time, English officials and forerunners came to see the workhouse as a more general system for rehabilitating criminals of all kinds. Common wisdom in England of the 1500s attributed property crime to idleness. Idleness had been the status crime since Parliament enacted the Statute of Laborers in the mid-14th century. By 1530, English subjects convicted of leading a roguish or vagabond's trade or life were subject to whipping and mutilation, and recidivists would face the death penalty, all for idleness. So I'm gonna say this. Y'all remember that we discovered that Indians worked only 57 days out the week, and they spent the majority of their time volunteering and helping everybody else. So if you got a lot of Indians volunteering to help a lot of other Indians, there's a lot of other Indians that would do what? Appear idle, right? So you take that mindset and you bring it over to the Americas, and you see these Indians as what they call idle. Their mindset is they need to be put to work, aka they need to be incarcerated. We need to harness their work.
So this sounds like that stereotype that quote unquote black people are lazy.
No loitering. No loitering. He hit it right on the head. Took it right out my mouth.
You gotta realize.
And it's kind of funny.
Now go ahead, Bones.
Go ahead, Timmy.
No, you good. You got it.
It's kind of funny that what you read what they did to the Indians is what they let you know happened to you, but keep trying to tell you we two different people.
But it's funny how they do it though, right? A cure for idleness. See, here's the thing you gotta realize. I don't know about y'all, but I'm assuming y'all like me. Once I learn how to do something, I don't stop there. I learn how to do it faster and more effective, so I don't have to spend much time doing it. So I'm always looking for an easier, more effective way to do something, which cuts my time down. But the colonizers or the Europeans, because they don't think that way, their mentality is, well, I don't need to come up with a faster way. I just need to come up with more people to do the work.
So I am hearing though that idleness, that's a crime, right?
Yeah.
A status crime at that.
Okay.
A status crime. Basically, they telling you how Tia May said it. They attach idleness, make that a status, and put it on. Okay, you're poor, you're lazy, you have no desire, you got to be reformed.
Oh, no loitering. So if we're standing around, we're probably committing a crime. So that's why they'll stop
idleness.
us.
You are a status crime.
It's exactly what you're doing. You're committing a crime of standing around. Only they were allowed to stand around and pontificate and talk and just be verbose with their words, as No Sellout so eloquently puts it. But see, their excuse for them talking was that they were building and they were communicating and they were networking and they were enriching minds. But when we did stuff like that, we were being lazy, shiftless Negroes or Indians, and we needed to be incarcerated because they didn't view us like they viewed themselves. So when they came over here and saw that we were so proficient and working 54 days out of 365, that was a problem for them. They had to fix it. So it says in 1557, many in England perceived that vagrancy was on the rise. The same year, the city of London reopened the Bridewell as a warehouse for vagrants arrested within the city limits. By order of any two of the Bridewell's governors, a person could be committed to the prison for a term of custody ranging from several weeks to several years. In the decades that followed, houses of correction or workhouses like the Bridewell became a fixture of towns across England. A change made permanent when Parliament began requiring every county in the realm to build a workhouse in 1576. You got to realize too, 1576 wasn't this also during the time where they had just gotten rid of all of the starting to get rid of many of the melanated Europeans. It also goes on to read that the workhouse was not just a custodial institution. At least some of its proponents hoped that the experience of incarceration would rehabilitate workhouse residents through hard labor. See that? Through hard labor, get you to work. You're standing around, so we're gonna make you do something. Supporters expressed a belief that forced absence from idleness would make vagrants into productive citizens. How many times have we heard that term? They are productive citizens. Productive citizens to the government means you are working. Why do you think you spend, or the average person spends 1/3 of their day at work? And for those of you who have jobs, and for those of you who manage people, you do realize, and you know this because this frustrates you, the majority of the work that they have you doing, you can get done in half or a quarter of the time. But because you're always in meetings and you're doing dumb stuff that doesn't pertain to anything, you basically have to be there 8 hours to do something that takes about 2 to 3. I'm sorry, I'm ranting.
I got a question. I got a question.
Go ahead,
guys. So, is that why when you go to jail or you go to court, and when it's time for you to get out of jail or parole or whatever the case may be, they ask you what you're going to do, how you're thinking or whatnot, and when you tell them, I'm going to get a job, I'm going to do this, you basically agree to conform to what they feel you should do, even down to probation. If you sign up for probation, you have to have a job. You can't just go out and try to start your own business. You actually have to work for someone else. That's why they have those stipulations and guidelines.
No, these stipulations and guidelines were designed for one thing and one thing only: a labor force. Has nothing to do with no straw man, nothing to do with contractual stuff. No, a labor force. You have to ask yourself, how do you pull off industrialization without a labor force? Think about it. They industrialized everything. But how do you do that without a labor force? Indians were only working 57 days. There was no way Indians were going to voluntarily turn into a labor force for industrialization. So you create laws to make them laborers so you can industrialize. You mechanize the farms, okay. You can get the produce from the farms faster. That means you need more packers, you need more loaders, you need more people. to do the manual labor that the machines can't do. Ain't nobody volunteering for that. Think about it. Ain't nobody running out now volunteering for that. Therefore, bring immigrants in that's willing to do it for pennies on a dollar.
Because that situation is worse. And then what they do is they take them and seeing this is what they're doing. What they do is they put us through a system of reformation. Think about the quote unquote African Americans here today. A lot of them are going to go to Africa and end up being what? Managers to help colonize who? The Africans there. One, because we speak the language, we don't have the accent, we're used to being over or in charge of somebody. And for many of us, it'll be, and I'm just going to say it like it is, for those that believe in slavery, in their minds, it'll be justified because y'all should have came and got us anyway, so now I'm in charge over you on your own land. And if the system is up, go ahead, Bones.
Why do you think they desensitized us? Why do you think they desensitize you? Why do you think they keep putting this bombardment that these are your people and they sold you into slavery? So when you go do it to them, you don't feel anything. You bust it right on the head.
And when that show they was talking, you said that show on the 60s talking about the sharecroppers, a lot of those Europeans, a lot of those people from South America came up north because of the treatment that they got from who? The treatment that they got, the worst treatment they got were from the Jamaicans, because Jamaicans were who? The Jamaicans were their farmers. The Jamaicans were the people that were in charge of them. So then they was like, well, if I gotta work hard, I'm gonna work hard for myself and make more money. So then where do they go? They go north and they come into the Americas to do what? Pick crops. It's the same work that they was doing down south, but they was getting paid less money. And the oppressor was Jamaicans. So if I'm gonna be oppressed by somebody, I'm gonna be oppressed by somebody white or somebody that looks closer to me, like me, than somebody that's black. All it is just reform the cycle. And then as these classes get in a situation where they're used to generating a little bit more money, then now they're the managers, they're the people that have a certain lifestyle. Now it's easy to get them to move and be managers and overseers of somebody else on somebody else's life. Musical chairs.
That's it.
Same system they've been running on us since they got here. Ain't nothing changed.
That's why timelines are important. You will see the incarceration rate grew right along with the industrial. They go hand in hand.
And what I'm starting to look at is, did they send some of these people over here straight to prison to house them and get them ready and rehabilitate them for work? Is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
Now, what I was saying, Whitewater Rod, is that the system that we're placed in is basically a world system. It's not just for the United States. During the 60s, there were a lot of Indians that were on reservations that they end up turning those reservations into work camps. And they were, the mothers and the fathers would pick crops all day long while the kids were there on the reservations. And they were making 12 cents a barrel, 12 cents a bucket. Well, you got to remember, in the 16 and 1700s, you had the South American population down south being controlled or having managers who were who? The Caribs. The Jamaicans. Jamaicans came over from Jamaica and went to South America and ended up managing these Latinos or these Southern Indians, and then they oppressed them. So then when the companies, you gotta realize companies can own businesses in any state. So you can have, remember, because we talk about the fruit and vegetable companies down south, banana companies and all that stuff. Well, if they picking bananas or they got bananas down south, I mean in the southern part of the continent, don't you think they got them in the southern part of the United States? So if you know you got workers down south that are making a lot less than the workers here, aren't you going to try to get those workers to come up here because they know what to do? And that's what they was doing. They was bringing immigrants here to the United States to do the same amount of work for half the pay. And the reason why they was willing for doing it half the pay because it was more than what they were making down south. When I say south, I'm talking about South America. So now you have, look at today. Majority of us are in positions where we have some sort of responsibility. We have a lifestyle that is conducive to what we want. Many of us are not happy with the lack of progression and upward mobility. So the ideology of going back home, and I'm using air quotes, sounds good. Why not go to Ghana where they put you in a position to where you'll be a manager over somebody from Ghana and they're paying you? I mean, it's only right? They allowed your ancestors to go into slavery. So it's a mindset. We're just being prepped to colonize for the Europeans. That's how they've always done it. This is nothing new. Actually, it's pretty old. They just found different mechanisms and strategies to do it.
Yeah, because run the parallel to it. The prison system is no different than the educational system. It's ran the same way. They're both to indoctrinate you to be part of a workforce, either willingly or unwillingly. It's about labor again. Work. People don't work, government don't have no money.
Oh, because the government doesn't produce anything. Doesn't make nor manufacture anything. So, hopefully that helps. So let me go ahead and finish reading about these prison systems. It says, all the vagrants were the first inhabitants of the workhouse, not felons or other criminals. Expansions of its use to criminals was discussed. Sir Thomas More described the Utopia, 1516, how an ideal government should punish citizens with slavery, not death. Stop. Listen to this now. It said, an ideal government should punish citizens with slavery, not death, and expressly recommended use of penal enslavement in England. Thomas Starkey, chaplain of Henry VIII, suggested that convicted felons be put into some commune work. So by their life yet the commune wealth should take some profit. Edward Hex, Justice of the Peace of Somerset in 1500s, recommended that criminals be put to labor in the workhouses after receiving the traditional punishment of the day. So, there you go.
They couldn't have put it any more clearer.
Exactly. Precisely. So.
So they came over here with the plan of doing all the things that have come forward up until current.
That's the plan they had to have after realizing that force wasn't going to work because we was whipping their hind parts. Remember, the prison systems didn't come over here. They didn't start using prison systems or implementing the prison systems until the late 1700s. They didn't start having a prison system like talking about until the early 1800s. You got to realize France had been over in the United States for a long time. You're talking about in the 1300s and 1400s, when some of the what do you call them? The French Huguenots, aka the Jews, got kicked out of France in the early 1300s. Where do you think they came? Who do you think went and go got them? The East went and got them. So there have been French here since the 1300s. The French knew about prison colonies.
So they were then and now learning our ways.
Yeah, they had to. You can't defeat a person unless you know a person.
And they were doing
Take
that.
any sport. Take any sport. You study your opponent before you go against them. You learn their strengths. You learn their weaknesses. Then you make your move.
Yeah, because they came here trying that brute force stuff, and that stuff didn't work. The women were whipping their tails.
What shows the intention is exactly how they came here. They came here by setting up companies and corporations.
Mm-hmm. So then it goes on to read that during the 17th and 18th century, several programs experimented with sentencing various petty criminals to the workhouse. Many petty criminals were sentenced to the workhouse by way of vagrancy. Vagrancy laws. Even before these efforts, a commission appointed by King James I in 1622 to reprieve felons condemned to death with banishment to the American colonies was also given authority to sentence offenders to toil in some such heavy and painful manual workers and laborers were home and to be kept in chains in the house of correction or other places until the king of his ministers decided otherwise. I'm going to repeat that again. In 1622, King James I reprieved felons condemned to death with banishment to the American colonies, was also given authority to sentencing offenders to toil in some such heavy and painful manual workers and laborers here at home and be kept in chains in the house of correction or other places until the king or his ministers decided otherwise.
Telling you they sent them over here with the purpose of doing what? Work.
But do you know what banished means? When you get banished from someone, you can't come back. That means you had to have committed a crime so heinous that you offended the very place that you live, and they don't ever want to see your face again. And these are the people that you unleashed on our people. I'm gonna let that marinate for y'all, on y'all for a minute.
Not just unleashed, put in charge of the labor forces.
Mm-hmm.
Made them high members of these corporations they came and set up.
But who would know how to run the prisons better than the prisoners? Who would know the system better than them?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I got a question. Because in my mind, even before I was born, this is about breaking your will.
No, not even really breaking your will. It's just simple. Labor. That's all it was about. Work. Again, a government has no money if the people don't work. Who they taxing if ain't nobody working?
And if they don't control the resources, how they gonna get you to work?
You design a system to where either You do it because you're indoctrinated to, or you do it because you rehabilitated to. Or you stay in the system and you forced to do it every day for pennies on a dollar. Nothing changed.
They just have more sophisticated mechanisms to keep people
That's
working.
it. But nothing has changed.
Exactly.
But it sounds like a mind screw.
That's exactly what it is. But it's a mind screw with a purpose. They're not just doing it to do it. They're doing it because they need workers. That's all that means. Think about this. No one is going to really volunteer to go work for a government that's not really providing anything when you can provide it for yourself. If I'm going to do all this work for you, and you only going to give me less than 1% of what I earn based off of my labor, I can do that for myself. Why would I do that unless I've been indoctrinated to do it or you control all the resources? If you control all the resources, think about this. Why do people go to work? People go to work to feed themselves, to clothe themselves, and to have shelter, right? If most people have food, clothing, and shelter, what else do they need? They don't need anything.
So I get it.
So if I take away your resources to feed, clothe, and shelter yourself, who are you dependent on? You're dependent on me. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I'm just thinking. It's just okay. So a while back there was this I don't know, a case or whatnot. Somebody was arrested for racketeering, and I didn't understand or know what racketeering is. What I'm hearing now is racketeering, because racketeering is creating a need for something that wasn't originally there.
Well, in layman's term, racketeering is basically doing what the United States did, which now the United States has made illegal.
Right. No. That's what's going through. Right. That's what's going through my mind right now.
Yeah. But they've always done that. Think of pharmaceuticals there was one particular time when you can order heroin and it was medicinal. Heroin. Cocaine. Cocaine used to actually be in Coke.
Yep. Got
now
that
it's
pop.
illegal. Yeah. Ecstasy was used to treat depression. That's the thing you gotta think about. So everything that they once used to make things legal, now they're illegal for us to do it. That's all. Because they don't want to happen. They don't want to do to them. They don't want to happen to them what they did to us. So how do you do that? You make it illegal and you put laws in place that if someone looks like they're gonna start doing it, you incarcerate them. It's really not that hard to understand it. Because they make the laws. They make the policies and enforce the laws.
$20 ago, got your head bust open for having a weed farm. Now the government got them popping up everywhere.
Exactly.
I'm gonna call because he needs to come to the house, but I'm gonna run to the kitchen.
So something to think about. Let me go ahead and finish reading this part. Give me a second. It says throughout the 1700s, even as England's bloody code took shape, incarceration and hard labor was held out as acceptable punishment for criminals of various kinds, e.g. those who received a suspended death sentence via benefit of clergy or a pardon. Those who were not transported to the colonies of those convicted of petty larceny in 1779, in a time when the American Revolution had made convict transportation to North America impracticable, the English Parliament passed the Penitentiary Act, mandating the construction of 2 London prisons with internal regulations modeled on Dutch workhouse prisoners, on the Dutch workhouse, i.e. Prisoners would labor more or less constantly during the day with their diet, clothing, and communication strictly controlled. Although the Penitentiary Act promised to make penal incarceration the focal point of English criminal law, a series of penitentiaries it prescribed were never constructed. So think about this. It says those who were not transported to the colonies or those convicted of petty larceny in 1779, at a time when the American Revolution had made convict transportation to North America impracticable. Why was it impracticable? Because they were at war. You just couldn't travel the waterways. That means that their convicts would have been taken as prisoners and they would have lost that money. So they had to come up with another system. So that's something to think about. So then it goes on to read, despite the ultimate failure of the Penitentiary Act, however, the legislation marked the culmination of a series of legislative efforts that disclose the antiquity, continuity, and durability of rehabilitation and incarceration ideology in Anglo-American criminal law, according to historian Adam J. Hirsch. The first United States penitentiaries involved elements of early English workhouses, hard labor by day, and strict supervision of inmates. That's what we have today, right?
Yep.
So then it talks about penology. So the second group that supported penal incarceration in England included clergymen and the lay priests of various religious denominations who made efforts during the 1700s to reduce the severity of English criminal justice systems. Initially, reformers like John Howard focused on the harsh conditions of pretrial detention in English jails. But many philanthropists did not limit their efforts to jail administration and inmate hygiene. They were also interested in spiritual health of inmates and curbing the common practice of mixing all prisoners together at random. The ideas about inmate classification and solitary confinement match another undercurrent of penal innovation in the United States that persisted in the progressive era. So think about this. Not only are they talking about having a workforce, but what are they doing? They're creating the caste systems in the prisons. They're separating you by religion. They separate you by race. They separate you by ideology. So now when you go back out into the world, if you're free, you now have a group of people that you fit in with. They don't want you fitting in with everybody. They want you to fit in with a specific group.
Yep.
Because you figure in prison, the one thing they would teach, one thing you think that prison people will learn in prison is to work together and cooperate and cohabitate so that things in prison would be better, being that you're going to be there and you're basically sentenced for a certain amount of years. But their whole purpose in prison is to separate you and segregate you so that when you get out of prison, you stay segregated and you stay separated. And in many cases, you might even be convinced to commit a crime against the very people that you hated or the very people that you hated or their ideologies when you were in prison, further ensuring that you will be a repeat offender. James Flame, Doodle Vision, what you got for the people, man? You got anything that you want to share with us? I know I've been running my mouth while I've been reading, but I'm really intrigued about this prison system and how it all works.
No, you good. You hitting the nail right on the head. Greetings to those on the panel and in the chat. I've just been sitting back in the cut because, oh man, it just all falls right in line. And when you mentioned that the industrial system, what was going on during this time? You look at steel, iron, manual labor was needed. That's when you start getting these skyscrapers, these huge buildings, the railroads. You needed physical labor. And it didn't matter about your will. I go back to kind of what Sister Gabby was saying. It has nothing to do with your will. Because I know I've worked in places where you're literally dealing with labor force. You're in a warehouse. Whether someone is cussing and fussing all day like a sailor, or whether they singing the gospel, Those people could care less. As long as you're getting that warehouse work done, or as long as you laying that concrete, laying that slab for that building, or you going underground and laying those copper pipes, they could care less. So when you falling in line with this system and you realize, I want to say one more note and then I'm done. What you were saying about hanging out with similar people, that you end up back in that, because you never release from that system, because when you get out, they call it you on paper, you're being put on paper. So when you get out, you hang with like-minded people, so you end up back in there so they can get more labor out of you. Now they're going to extend your sentence and give you more labor. So this is the same mentality that's going on in the community that's called like the conscious community. So if you were a scammer, you hang around scammers, and if someone shows you a better way than scamming, then you're called an agent. Yeah. I'll yield the mic. That's all I think about. I gotta go.
Get that man a prize.
So yeah, it's crazy. So beginning with Samuel Denny's letter to the Lord Ladbroke in 1771, the Jonas Hannah's Solitude and Imprisonment, 1776 philanthropic literature on English penal reform began to concentrate on the post-conviction rehabilitation of criminals in the prison setting. Although they did not speak with a single voice, the philanthropist penologists tended to view crime as an outbreak of the criminal's estrangement from God. Hanaway, for example, believed that the challenge of rehabilitating the criminal law lay in restoring his faith in and fear of the Christian God in order to qualify him for the happiness in both worlds. Many 18th century English philanthropists proposed solitary confinement as a way to rehabilitate inmates morally. Since at least 1740, philanthropic thinkers touted that the use of penal solitude for two primary purposes: one, to isolate prison inmates from the moral contagion of other prisoners, and two, to jumpstart their spiritual recovery. The philanthropists found solitude far superior to hard labor, which only reached the convict's worldly self, failing to get the underlying spiritual causes of crime. In their conception of prisons as a penitentiary, a place of repentance for sin, the English philanthropists departed from the continental models and gave birth to a largely novel idea. According to social historians Michael Meddans and Michael Ngatief, which in turn found its way into the penal practice in the United States. The major political obstacles to implementing the philanthropist solitary program in England was financial. Building individual cells for each prisoner cost more than the congregate housing arrangements, typical of 18th century English jails. Now, if you think about this, the reason why that wouldn't have worked in the Americas, because what? Indians did what? Those were nothing. Those were their houses was like communal living facilities. You basically had 20 families in a house. So you just gonna throw 20 Indians in a house now? All you're going to do is give more time to talk to each other and figure out a way to escape. Then it goes back to, but by the 1790s, social solidarity confinement facilities for convicted criminals appeared in Gloucestershire and several other English countries. The philanthropists' focus on isolation and moral contamination became the foundation for early penitentiaries in the United States. Philadelphians on the period eagerly followed exports and philanthropist reform. John Howard and the archetypical penitentiaries that emerged in the 1820s United States, Auburn and Eastern State penitentiaries both implemented a solitary regimen aimed at morally rehabilitating prisoners. The concept of inmate classification or dividing prisoners according to their behavior remains in use in the United States prisons today. So that's the prison system. Hold on, and I'll go back to the Texas Indian War. Anybody want to build on that while I transition?
Yeah, that right there should tell you what was really going on and what this really is about. I mean, if that doesn't tell you, without this system, America don't become the so-called dominant power in the world. They don't become the wealthiest nation without this system. What's even worse, they maintain their position with this same system.
So it's only us that keeps the system going.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go ahead and start reading Mackenzie's campaign against Quanah Park. So it says, Colonel Ronald Mackenzie and the 4th Cavalry Regiment, United States, pursued Quanah Park and his followers all through the late 1874 into 1875. He led a 5-unit movement to coverage on the Indian hideouts along the eastern edge of this dark plains. Mackenzie, in the most daring and decisive battle of the campaign, destroyed 5 Indian villages on September 28, 1874, in Palo Duro Canyon. His destruction of Indians, horses, 1,000 of them, in Tool Canyon, destroyed the Indians' resistance by taking the last of their prized possessions, their horses, along with destroying their homes and food supplies. On November 5, 1874, Mackenzie's forces won a minor engagement, his last with Comanches. In March 1875, Mackenzie assumed command at Fort Sill and control over the Comanche, Kiowa, Cheyenne, Arapaho reservations. So again, this is in 1875. Again, you're talking about, 9 years after the 1866 Act? So they're just putting everything in place. And now if you look at how incarceration is being used to create a workforce, you can see not only how the railroads got built, but you can also see how the prisons got built. You can also see how everything got built because they use this new workforce, this new labor of Indians who were now citizens, who were now under the jurisdiction of the United States government because there was no longer a tribal court. See, anybody that knows anything about the military, if you sign up to join the military, you are not under anybody's jurisdiction. If you're stationed in Germany, and Doodle can attest to this, if you're stationed in Germany and you commit a crime in Germany, yes, they will hold you in a cell, but they will call your platoon officer or they will call your commanding officer, and your commanding officer will be released under their supervision. And now you are now being dealt with based off of the Uniform Code of Military Justice, UCMJ, because you are in an institution where you are sovereign, and any crime you commit has to be punished by that sovereign entity first. Indians were the same way until 1866 when they got rid of tribal courts. So therefore now they are under the jurisdiction of the United States government and the state government, which basically means that the state government and the United States government now had a plethora of people to do the work, which goes back to what James says when he talks about the industrial boom. You cannot have industrial boom without workers. So you got people coming in from Europe, and then you got the Indians coming in from the South. So you have a large influx of workers. So now a whole bunch of stuff can get built. Here we go. Next paragraph. So when the go ahead.
Just real quick. And if you think about it, you mentioned this before. When a company takes over another company, normally they bring in their own managers, right?
Yeah, they have to.
So basically, bringing the immigrant population in was bringing in a management population.
Yeah, because they know how the systems run. Because somebody's got to be able to watch and control the new inmates that they're about to create based off of the 13th Amendment. You basically looking at the 13th Amendment was a form of mass incarceration of an epic proportion like we've never seen. And I don't think people understand that. You took people out of indentured servitude and made them prisoners for a very cheap workforce. But they say prisoners make only 3 cents. They think about this. Prisoners were only making 3 cents a day. You getting paid as a laborer 3 cents a day, but the job calls for $15 an hour. So if you would normally be paying somebody $15 an hour and they're doing the work for 3 cents a day, can you imagine what the overhead looks like for that? So to give it to you in mathematical terms, one of the things that companies are looked at when it comes to how they operate is that your workforce cannot be any more than 12% of your expenses. Anything more than 12% of your expenses, your company is in jeopardy of operating in the red. So you figure if a company is generating $100,000 a year, that means no more than $12,000 can go towards the workforce. Any more going towards that, and the company is in danger of operating in the red. Now imagine if you were generating $100,000, right? You had 10 workers and they're all making less than $1 an hour. Do you see how much more of a difference that makes for the company? Because now the company has the manpower or the woman power to do the work, but they don't have the burden of the overhead, meaning paying them. Because when you pay an employee, that is an expense. So when people look at a job, the thing that they don't look at is the company's job is to get you to do the most work for the least pay. An employee's job is to get to do the least amount of work for the most pay. Somebody gonna win, somebody gonna lose. You tell me who it is. So hopefully that explanation helps and brings some light to a situation that people may or may not have been thinking about.
I only play the games that I win at.
You say you only play the game that you win at? That's funny. So here we go. The surrender of Quanah Park. Mackenzie sent Jacob J. Sturm, a physician and post interpreter, to negotiate the Quahada surrender. Stern found Quahana, whom he called a young man of much influence with his people, and made his case for yielding peacefully. Mackenzie had sent his personal word: if Quanah surrendered, all of his band would be treated honorably and none charged with any offense. The arrest and trial of Kiowa leaders in 1871 had made that a real possibility. Contrawise, Stern carried Mackenzie's personal vow to hunt down every man, woman, and child who refused to yield. Quanah later said he was ready to die, but was loath to condemn the women and children to death. Quanah believed Colonel Mackenzie, when he promised that if the Quahada did not surrender, every man, woman, and child would be hunted down and killed. Quanah rode to Mesa, where he saw a wolf come toward him, howl, and trot away to the northeast. Overhead, an eagle guided lazily and then whipped its wings in the direction of Fort Sill. As Jacob Stern reported later, this was a sign. Quanah thought, and on June 2nd, 1875, he led his band to Fort Sill in present-day Oklahoma and surrendered. On that day, the Plains Indians were extinct as a separate people, their way of life completely destroyed. They always want to destroy something or say something was destroyed. That's a bunch of crap.
But listen how they use the term extinct here, and it tells you what they really mean when they say extinct.
Yeah,
they don't mean physically extinct. Your culture, the way you used to live, how you used to go about life before is dead. You just adopted a European way of living.
You're right.
I give you one better on top of that. Look, is what I want y'all to do, because I was gonna say it gets real good where the rubber meets the road, and you're gonna find out a lot of us got switched, and we're taking the title of freed man, and none of this happened until after the Civil War. After the Civil War took place, a lot of this started transitioning. McKenzie, just look up the troops. What troops was he using to defeat these Plains Indians? I'll go ahead and tell you. You can look it up later and tell me that I'm wrong, whether I know I'm right. Can't get no righter, in the words of Chris Tucker. They used the Buffalo Soldiers. So when these Plains Indians were placed in charge of these reservations, you think that they didn't get upset with the people that look like you and me defeating them? So now you're out of the tribe? Look up the 41st and the 24th Infantry.
Bingo.
Those were Buffalo Soldier troops. That's why when you read about all these cowboys, these Texas Rangers, all of them are us. Man, I hate using that phrase, but they are. I yield the mic.
But now you can start tying together what caused some rifts, what caused some beefs, why some sides hate.
That's the reason why it's important to know how everything started and know who everybody is, because it wasn't just they hated you because they hated you because we were hunting them. They hated you because our ancestors were hunting them. And our ancestors were hunting them because that was one of the ways they can keep their people free. Keep the colonizers off their back. Same. Again, like I said, no tribe is innocent in all of this.
And the treaty was broken because Palo Duro was Plain Indians territory. Once you started getting west of Fort Worth and you started getting across the cross timbers, because that was a natural barrier of the trees. Don't come to the other side of these trees, these thickets, or you have violated the treaty. So now you're sending elite troops, for the most part, Seminoles, Buffalo Soldiers, your southeastern tribes, to go into Plains Indians territory. And they're looking at, why are you over here? You guys said that you guys, as the Uli, you set the barriers. Why are you coming into our territory to destroy us, to imprison us? You broke your own treaty. So now there's this double hatred because you're telling us, don't come into East Texas. Don't come past this point. Don't come past the Holy River, or now known today as the Trinity River. Don't come east of that, because if you do, you have broken the treaty. So we broke our own treaty with the Plains Indians. So now you have this hatred. So now I'm in charge, you get out. Think about it. I yield the mic.
That's why you can never be too haughty when you're dealing with who your ancestors were. You can never be too quick to judge when we're dealing with our ancestors. We can never be too quick to jump to conclusions of why some people hate us or why certain tribes don't want to deal with our people. Because now you're starting to know the truth. We broke our own treaties. And because we broke our own treaties, we set our people up for failure. Again, we all had a hand. When I say we, I mean our ancestors. All had a hand in our demise dealing with these colonizers. The Itza started by letting people know who the Indians were. The Sioux perpetuated by letting the Vikings in through the North Gate. The Cherokee broadened it by brokering deals with the British, the French, and the Spanish. And then the Seminoles perpetuated by enforcing and breaking a treaty with the Plains Indians. The Plains Indians, they helped with the annexation and destruction of Texas, which was basically its own country in the United States. Everybody is guilty in this. Nobody is innocent in this. So the moment we stop looking at things from the perspective of who's right and who's wrong, we can start moving forward. I repeat, everybody's guilty. Nobody's innocent. So now the question is, now what? What do we do? Y'all know our motto. Get right. Make it right. I'm sorry, somebody's about to say something.
I got another question. Who specifically was was in the 24th Infantry, the 38th Infantry, and the 41st Infantry?
Your Seminole, your Caddo, your Wichita, which is your Washita, and your Itza.
Now, specifically, who was in the 24th Infantry?
Same people.
Really?
You had the same tribes. You had the same tribes that were in these troops. That's why they would call it your Negro or colored troops. That they're changing now on the digital as African American troops.
Right.
No, they were not. These were your Buffalo Soldiers. And like I said, I placed it in the back chat before I knew you knew Sister Gabby. But I had placed pictures to where I was an honorary speaker for a Memorial Day service at the Colored Cemetery. Because I can't even lost track on how many of my relatives are out there at that site. And the Buffalo Soldiers came and gave a 21 gun salute. And afterwards, they gave a public apology to me and my people for the mistreatment of my people. They admitted what they had done. They had not only turned their backs on the Plain Indians, which we were still battling anyway. Like I said, you kept reading about these Comanches, these Plain Indians were coming east and they were raiding, but they weren't necessarily raiding us. They were raiding the Europeans for food because they were dying. They were cut off. They had nothing to eat. And then in turn, after these colored troops helped the United States government, United States military defeat the Plain Indians, they were used to keep us in check. Again, when people look like you, and I hate to say it, but people that look like us treat us worse than people that don't look like us. Think about it. Because now I's in charge. And I got to show the man that I'm going to keep you in check. I yield the mic.
Again, nobody's innocent in any of this. So if you look at the screen, Gabby, you'll see that when it came to the regiments, who was where? The 9th, 10th, 24th, 25th were the Buffalo Soldiers. Now here's the thing that I find interesting. It said the Buffalo Soldiers were first active between 1866 and 1951. Boys and girls, men and women, ladies and gentlemen of all ages, what happened in 1866?
My, oh my, oh my.
Wasn't that the Treaty of something or of 1866 or something?
Exactly.
Yeah, you had the Indian Treaty, you had the Civil Rights. Yeah. All Indians became U.S. citizens under the jurisdiction of the United States. Now it ties in why they would send the Buffalo Soldiers to go corral other Indians.
Because you look like me and you know my ways because you are me. Who better to capture? Because you think these European soldiers and troops, they didn't know the landscape. So how were they, you thinking about they're just trying to survive, let alone trying to capture somebody. You're going after someone, but you don't know the land. They were using us against us. the way it has always been. If other times you didn't even put it out there, because I could talk about this, the Choctaw betrayed the Chickasaw and the Natchez. Everyone has played a role. So if everyone wants to romanticize that you as an Indian, your people did no wrong, I beg to differ. I yield the mic.
They could not defeat us from the outside. They can only defeat us from the inside.
Think about it. History shows you that no nation has ever been brought down from the outside. It has always been from the inside. It's always getting the population of a nation to turn against itself. Once you cause that chaos, come in, pick up the pieces, that's easy then. Everybody distracted fighting each other.
And here's things that people gotta realize. And I don't care what you think. I don't care what you believe. I don't care what your mindset is or how superior you think you are over everybody. I'm gonna tell you this. The colonizer has been studying us since the 1300s. And they're still studying us. So you subtract the 1300s from 2020, and that should tell you how long they've been studying us. And if you think that you can do anything to the United States government and don't know anything about the United States government, you are sadly mistaken. The problem is that the United States government and the parties that be know you better than you know yourself. So if you are under any inclination that you are just going to become independent, throw a piece of paper on the table, declare your sovereignty, take over somebody's nonprofit, and demand anything, you are a new fool. We have been studied since the 1300s. They have books on how to defeat us. And the fact that people have the audacity to get on a public forum like YouTube and Facebook and talk about how jacked up the government is and think nothing's going to happen to them, nor that nothing is being recorded, shows you that you don't know anything. Somebody do me a favor and subtract 1300 from 2020, and that's how much of a head start they got on us when it comes to knowing who we are and how we operate. And then I dare somebody to tell me what they gonna do to take control of the United States. I want to see your comprehensive plan and tell me how it's gonna work. When there are United States military bases on 75% of the land in the world, not just the United States, but the world. But you are so verbose and you're so smart that you think a piece of paper or some form of declaration is going to free you and your people. Thank you, Mayan Sun 0911. 900 years of studying you and your people. 900 years of studying you and your people, and you think some piece of paper or some law that you think you got a hand on is going to free you and your people. And because you think you know law, you're going to free your people.
You'd be better off playing the lottery.
900 years of studying you. Not 9, not 90, not 109. Not 190, 900 years. The majority of people that's talking that crap can't even take their family back 9 generations. But y'all smart. Y'all got the law on y'all side. Y'all a bunch of idiots. Go ahead and use law if you want to. You know
what's funny about that?
Go ahead, Bones.
You have lawyers that go to school for 8+ years and constantly take courses because law is forever changing. Law is always precedent on the case that happened before. So how can you pick it up and think you learned it? that you learn universal law for every county, every district in the land. And then the misquoting that the bar go back to the British or creditors. Man, I'm not even going to go there because we already broke that down. If people need to stop misleading and people need to actually research what people tell you. Like we tell you here, just don't go by what we tell you. Look it up, research it for yourself. Check it out. Make sure it check out. Don't let nobody get you jammed up with no false information. Then when it goes down, ain't nobody picking up the phone or coming to help.
You got a YouTube committee of people that want to be Indian councils and whatnot. But don't nobody know you in your own neighborhood. Y'all need to go sit down and have several seats. Tell you what, bring your council in my neighborhood and talk that mess and see what happens. We right next to DC. Come to DC with your council, with your paperwork, and see what you get. But I promise you, you don't know the law here. I promise you, you don't know the law there. Bring your Constitution. Bring the Constitution. And see how long it takes you to get locked up or hemmed up.
This is my thing. One thing that we know that's true in society, if something works, everybody jumps on it. It becomes mainstream. If these things ain't mainstream, that should be telling you something. That should be the alarm right there.
You know what should be the alarm? The fact that people are on YouTube telling people what they can do to get away with stuff, and it's still allowed on the channel. It's not being blocked.
That's because they want you to go out there and follow that foolishness. That's more laborers. Keep playing. If there was so much secret information that's going to help you overthrow the government, again, like GMA just said, why is it allowed to be broadcast on YouTube?
Why is the person that's telling you what to do not in your city or your town? They're in another state, or in some instances in another country. But it works.
Or why no billionaire ain't around here doing it? And they benefit the most with all the resources and stuff they sit on. If anybody would have this system down pat on how to work around the government and be their own government, we should have a bunch of billionaire countries in this country.
Bunch of Pretorias in this country.
Oh, but there are instances of when people try to become sovereign and it don't work.
Oh, millions.
But that was different. They weren't smart. It's only people that went to jail and now they figured out a better way not to get incarcerated. Oh, I know what my mistake was, so when we get out, this is what we gonna do.
It's an outdated deal that's given to our community in an outdated time, designed for you to get jammed up. Didn't we break down that the government already set up institutions for this?
Exactly, honey. The real secret is your lineage, knowing who you are.
Exactly.
That's the stuff that they keep changing. That's the stuff that they keep rearranging. That's the stuff they keep making it harder for you to access. That's the stuff that they don't want you to get your hands on. That's the stuff they keep digitizing and putting African American where once mulatto was, or African American where once black was. That's the stuff you need to be working. We need to be focusing on. Not making a declaration claiming independence from the United States government. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard.
Hey, TMH, get with the times, man. They're putting African American on the census for good. Negro's gone. That's out. Just get over it.
Well, my birth certificate say Negro, so
Oh man, yeah, you might.
So basically, what
You
you're
might
saying
be-
is,
you
I
might be
know
one-
you basically erased me from history because my birth certificate reads Negro. So I guess look. Hey Bones. So since my birth certificate reads Negro, am I now de-authenticated?
Wait, is that how that works?
I don't know. My birth certificate says Negro. They're taking Negro off the census. So am I now authenticated? Am I no longer part of the system? You break it up, Bones. You breaking up real bad. I don't know what happened. Wherever you at, you need to come out the basement. Come on the third level of your property. I don't know. That's just me. I don't know. Everybody got a scheme, a scam, a plan, and then they want to charge you for it. Sign up for my Patreon, join my PayPal account, because I got to get paid. My mentality is this: since you so bad. Yeah, we can hear you better. Go ahead.
Byron Allen.
I heard Byron Allen. That's all I heard. Bruh, I don't know where you at.
Hold on.
He sound like a Decepticon on crack that need a fix. Good grief.
What they doing to him?
That's because Brother No Sellout said the magic word. He said Pretoria. You cannot use words like that.
My bad.
To me, it's I don't know. Maybe it's me. Maybe I'm slow. Maybe I don't understand. Maybe I'm missing something. The Constitution is supposed to rule over every law, but nobody can go into any federal court with the Constitution and win. And the courts they go into are state courts.
Man, the Constitution won't even help you out in the people's court.
Or the treaties before 1866. That's where we're supposed to get out. We're supposed to get everything that we're supposed to have. We're gonna go and take what we want. We're gonna go to Congress and demand. You and what tribe? Don't nobody in your community know you an Indian. That's right, genealogy. Do your family members know you an Indian? Do your neighbors know you an Indian?
Dude, I'll give you one better. Do your family members even know you exist?
People are funny to me. YouTube was the greatest and worst invention. Well, the internet was the greatest and worst invention ever because people can hide behind icons and pretend to be whoever they want to be. But I bet you, if you tell me where you live or your community, I bet you if I walked in your community and talked to 10 people, wouldn't nobody know you. But you're a big YouTube personality.
Maybe the people at the 7-Eleven. Everybody got a 7-Eleven.
Trying to start an international movement and you are a secret agent locally. When I say secret agent, I mean don't nobody know you. I don't mean you work for the government. Sad to me. Like I said, come on down to Northern Virginia with your counsel. Holla at your boy.
Mic check. 1 2 1
You
2.
good?
Is
You
that
good? Yeah, you good.
Yeah, no. All I was saying before whatever that was that happened was Byron Allen, a billionaire, in the Supreme Court right now, fighting with the 1866 Civil Rights Act. if all this Morris solving citizen stuff really works, wouldn't you think this billionaire would do that? If this stuff was 100% official, legit, wouldn't you think this billionaire would be taking that route? We got to start using common sense, man. It's gonna get an everyday person free, but somebody with wealth ain't using it to free themselves. That's crazy.
You know what I realized, Bones? This is what I realized. You could be the most notorious, dangerous person in a video game, but you cannot take that character into real life. Think about it. I could be the best. What's up, James?
On that video game, you can do like I used to do with my Sega Genesis, get mad, throw it, and hit that reset button. So you can start the game over on that video game. But in real life, you only get one man. That's it. That's why they
Man, the game cheat. Restart the game now.
Man, you know how many times I kicked that thing over Donkey Kong, Super Mario Brothers, man? Had to blow in it. Not working. It's not working. Unplug it. Take it out and put it back in. Blow on it.
Look, Michael Harris Brown Cheek says, so TMH, you telling me the Morris American card won't get me free? This is one thing you always gonna hear me say, excuse me. I'm not telling you anything. All I know is the strategies, not just the Moors. I'm not just banging on them. I'm banging on anybody that perpetuates that they can give you some magic spell, some magic words, some magic stance, some magic document, sprinkle some fairy dust on it, and you gonna run the country. And you haven't shown me any proof that it exists. Show me one person, or show me a country, or show me somebody that's doing what you're saying. There should be for all these people that claim to have these declarations, these systems in place. You should have your own. What is it? You should have your own embassy. Yeah. Where's your embassy?
Oh, that's you got those?
Embassy. Where's your land? Why you still paying bills? Matter of fact, why
are
you
we talking to you on this phone?
Why you got a phone?
I just need to know where your embassy is. You talking all that trash like you got something. Where's your embassy? Where's your relationship with the United States that you're claiming because you're holding this piece of paper that you got off of YouTube? Why do I not see you on your phone representing yourself at the White House or at the Senate or at the House of Representatives? Why you on YouTube talking smack? Why you ain't out in the real world doing the real work? Don't you have a local government? Don't you have a governor? Don't you have a mayor? Don't you have a superintendent of the state? Why aren't you talking to those people? Oh, that's right. You're not real. I'm sorry. My bad. You're not real. You're just an icon with a mouth. All that stuff you talking, but you won't go out in the real world, talk to real people to deal with real issues. You'll get on YouTube and convince a bunch of people of some things that you can do with no proof, but you won't even go talk to your local officials. But if you're so bad, why won't you? Oh, that's right, because jails are real. Incarceration is real. When they kick in your door, it's real. When you get locked up, it's real. YouTube's not. Never mind, I got my question asked. I'm going on mute.
You say something about talking heads and mouthpieces. Even Max Headroom. See, I'm telling my age now, but Max Headroom had his own TV show. Think about it.
Maximum Headroom.
See, some of them youngsters don't know about Mac's head.
I know, right?
He was nothing but an upper torso and a face. That was it. Got his own TV show.
Got a counsel. Y'all funny to me. Anyway, let's go back to the Texas-Indiana War. Post Shame, I be confusing Gabby when I go off on my rants. She be like, did I miss something? Everything all right? I'm good, Gabby. I just go on my rants from time to time because I can't stand.
No, I get it.
I can't stand idiots.
No, I get it. You said something. Bone said something. James said something. And I was just like, wait a minute. And I started self-reflecting. Like, hold on.
We ain't talking about you.
Why
You good?
No. I'm still gonna self-reflect. But it was like, okay, this is why, okay, when I did have the mentality telling my children either y'all gonna go to school or y'all gonna go in the military. It's just different things I'm self-reflecting on, like
I was in the military. And then I went to school.
Good for you.
So I get
even
it.
down to the idol, I'm just processing everything.
Right. It's good.
Because it's just I'm trying to figure out, was I being a follower? Even though I pride myself as not being a follower, was I actually being a follower? Was I, just I'm processing.
No, that's part of the program. They created the fear of incarcerating you. They put that in our communities. So your grandparents told our parents, and a lot of us copied the same thing. What? You ain't just finna sit around here. No, you ain't finna do that. You finna go to school. You finna be this. You finna do this. You finna do that. Because all they were doing was using the information that they had at the time and making the best decision off of what they had.
Yeah.
You don't know what you don't know, but now that you do, you act accordingly and adjust to it.
Yeah. I'm okay with y'all rants. If I take it personally or my feelings get hurt, I'm okay with it because I know that means I'm gonna change. Something, whatever it is that I need to process, means that I didn't know, and I get it. But yeah, it means I need to take whatever it is that I'm confused about.
And again, it's not about me banging on somebody. Because again, and his thing, we need people to understand, because I don't like when people try to create narratives.